What's up, fam? I wanna so somewhere along my journey in this life, I attempted to attain a degree in civil engineering, and part of the curriculum was to take calculus, which, if anybody had anybody been challenged to, it is a formidable math class for sure. However, so I didn't finish. I got a C in Calc 1 and got to Calc 2, and as a retail lead, and a parent, it was very difficult to do both. Nevertheless, though, the thing that like stuck with me in calculus was frequencies. That everything had a frequency, and it just for a while, it like frequency was mystical to me, right? When you talk to people in our community, they talk about being on the same wave, same frequency, vibrating, and like what they're talking in a very mathematical way. And I don't even know if they really have the depth of understanding of what that really means, right? So, for instance, light waves exist and they have their own frequency. Sound waves exist, it has its own frequencies, and light waves vibrate higher than sound waves. Therefore, you can see them and you can only hear the sound waves, right? And in order to do that, though, you have to have the appropriate receptors. So in order to actually tune into certain sound waves, you need ears or something like ears. And then in order to see, you have to have the right receptors, something similar to eyes, right? Or something like eyes. But if you vibrate at a high enough frequency, you can phase through things. Because everything that looks like a solid is just vibrating at a frequency in which it appears to be this solid piece of matter, but really everything in them, or us, is simply vibrating at a frequency that appears to be solid. So, I'm going down this rabbit hole, and I'm finding this stuff very interesting. And then this past trip to Colombia, I'm walking in the community. Actually, it's called the Wall City, and like I hear this. I don't speak Spanish, but I hear this very familiar sound wave, and I stopped, and that sound wave was a preacher preaching in Spanish, and at this point, this is now intrigued or piqued my sense of hearing, and made me pay close attention as I continued to travel. And his cadence was pretty much identical to the cadence of Baptist preachers in black communities. So it maybe not have as depth of a feel, but the rhythm, the frequency he was on, and what he was sharing was like same stuff, right? And so I'm steady walking, and then I get into another area where there's like street dances and stuff, and some verbal performers as well, artists, and like you can tell over this variety of artists I heard, you can tell who was rapping and who was on hip hop frequency, who was singing on more of an R&B or pop frequency. And I think the most fascinating thing to me is that we can only assume that the words they're using are hold similar meaning to words that we use in those genres as well. But even in different languages, they have somehow uniquely found the capacity, the frequency, amazingly means similar things. So what I'm saying is that like nobody, the frequency that I was hearing hip hop on was not telling a romantic love story. Like I'm pretty sure of that, right? It wasn't talking about, Jack and Jill went up the hill. I'm pretty sure it was the same energy that American or English speaking rappers and English pop artists, same words, different language, but rhythmically they vibrated on the exact same frequency. And I was just flabbergasted by that. It was absolutely fascinating. So what that means is that when folks say that they're on the same frequency, on the same wave, is that just as English rap and this Spanish rap, it allowed for a certain tune to exist, although the words were not the exact same words. They were spoken in a different language. And so when you're on the same wavelength of frequency as somebody, that means that you all are connected in a very unique way, that you are expressive of each other, and or you receive that person in the same manner in which they're trying to deliver it. Because if you think about any mode of communication, is what you said, what you think you said, and what they heard. And if they're not vibing with you, the words that we use culturally in comparison to other, in other areas, you can find that you can be using words that they understand, but they don't feel you. They're not vibing with you. You're not on the same frequency. So therefore they can't receive the message in the same manner in which you attempted to deliver it. So, I mean, as I continue to ponder this, like I'm sure I'll do another video on it, but I just found it was very fascinating to me, of how awesome the idea that everything that you are listening to, that you can hear from me, what you see of me, the device in which you're watching it on, all holds a mathematical equation that allows, and a frequency that allows for it to exist in the state in which it's in. And in closing, like the other part, which is a little further down the rabbit hole, is that you've heard of a dog whistle, which humans are unable to hear. But we know that it exists because the dog hears it. And what happened is that there was a device that transmitted frequency information waves, and the dog's ear has appropriate receivers that heard that wave, right? But you couldn't do it. You couldn't hear it as a human. Consider this though, that standing next to your televisions, at least the old televisions, there was all of these waves, different frequencies floating through the air, and based on the channel you tuned into, right, the frequency you chose to observe on, your television captured these waves out of the air and transformed them into a frequency in which you can see with your eyes. Now, we've been very creative as humans to be able to create these devices, right, that allow us to interact with things and waves on a different level. Bluetooth is one now, Wi-Fi. But imagine how many different, and frequencies are numbers, that mean it's infinite. How many different frequencies exist that we don't have? We haven't developed or can't ever develop tools to actually have, to be able to receive or to transmit information on select frequencies, select wavelengths, right? And so literally anything and everything could be actually happening next to you on a different frequency that you just don't have the receptors to see. Mind blown.